Darlington Race Week. Let's take a trip down memory lane and look at some NASCAR throwback schemes. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. This is one of my favorite episodes we do every single year. The Goodyear 400 at Darlington is less than a week away. Dozens of NASCAR race teams have unveiled throwback-themed paint schemes that will race this weekend. We'll take a look at those schemes in a moment. I'll tell you which ones are my favorite, which ones unfortunately missed the mark. But before we get to that, this episode is sponsored by Pristine Auction, the premier destination for sports memorabilia and collectibles auctions. At Pristine Auction, you can bid on a wide variety of items starting at just $1, including thousands of signed pieces from your favorite athletes. Every item sold on Pristine Auction comes with a certificate of authenticity from the industry's most reputable authenticators. Whether you're a NASCAR fan or just a collector of all things sports related, Pristine Auction is your go-to source for quality memorabilia. And there's a special offer for fans of this show. Register right now at pristineauction.com and use the code GROOVE to get $10 off your first item one. Don't miss out on an opportunity to upgrade your collection today. Thank you again to Pristine Auction. Now, to make this video a bit more interesting, I'm not just gonna be looking at and talking about throwback schemes, I'll also be grading them, rating them. And in the spirit of Throwback Weekend, we're going back like 15 plus years to the earliest days of YouTube. Before there was a like and dislike button, you actually would rate videos out of 5 stars, like 1 star, 2 star, 3, etc. That was even before my time. I mean, maybe 8 or 9-year-old Eric was surfing a still brand new YouTube and saw some of the star rating systems, but by the time I was uploading videos, I think they'd fully converted to likes and dislikes. So this is a true throwback. I'm gonna rate each NASCAR throwback scheme out of 5 stars. And at the end of this video, I'll tell you which ones are my favorite. I do see the irony. What gives me the right to judge throwback schemes when my logo is on a cup car this weekend and we're not doing a throwback? It is a fair point, but look, to prove I'm not biased, the podcast Party Bus gets a 1 out of 5 stars on the throwback scale. I'm super proud of how this car turned out. I think it's gonna pop on the racetrack, but it's not a throwback. We had a few ideas we kicked around. Originally, this car was gonna run at a different race, not Darlington. The Darlington deal kind of came together. We had this scheme already mocked up. We decided to stick with it. We love that it's kind of our own thing, but the color scheme is still a bit retro. I think it will fit in nicely. Okay, let's get to the actual throwbacks. Let's begin with Team Penske, Ryan Blaney throwing it back to his father, Dave. Always a fan of these father-son tribute schemes. It's tough for a NASCAR stock car to throw back to a sprint car scheme, but I love the kind of zigzag there on the door. Actually looks really cool. If this became the new modern day Menards scheme, I would not complain. The Menards colors though aren't really accurate to the original. This one's good. I'm gonna give it 4 stars. Same thing with Joey Logano's Mark Donohue 1973 Riverside win throwback. This was Team Penske's first NASCAR win ever. This is a gorgeous looking race car. The red, white, and blue. I love that they changed the 22 font. I like that even Pennzoil sort of changed their font to more match the design. I don't have anything bad to say about this car. It is beautiful. Unfortunately, we've seen it. Literally last year, Hailie Deegan ran this exact same throwback, same meaning, same story, same everything. So for that, I have to dock them a star. Beautiful recreation, no doubt, but I gotta give this one 4 stars as well. Wood Brothers Racing, they have an alliance with Team Penske. Harrison Burton is throwing it back to his dad, Jeff Burton. He's done this before. In fact, I think he's done this 2 or 3 times before, but this scheme slaps. Jeff Burton swept the 2 Darlington races in 1999 in this very pink scheme, except it had Exide on the hood. Great tribute, great theming, love the father-son connection. I'm gonna give this car 5 stars. The only thing holding it back ever so slightly is the fact that Dex on the side is not white. Why couldn't they make that white to match the Exide logo on the original scheme? They matched the colors on the hood. Why couldn't they do it on the door? That would have put this easily over the top. Still, I'm not picky. I'm gonna give it 5 stars. Another Ford team, Front Row Motorsports, Todd Gilliland throwing it back to Elton Sawyer, who now serves, I believe, as NASCAR's VP of competition. So they're kissing up to the competition director? I don't know how I feel about that. No, but in all seriousness, this is a very accurate throwback scheme. The colors mostly match the number 38 there on the side. Perfectly matches the 38 of the old Barbasol scheme. I love that. I'm gonna give this 4 stars though, because I'm missing one thing. I'm missing a connection. What is the significance? Why is Todd Gillen? Why are Front Row throwing it back to this Elton Sawyer car? It feels a bit random. I mean, I guess it's the number 38, I suppose. They do share that in common. That's important. But to me, there are 2 characteristics that make up a flawless 5-star throwback scheme. There needs to be that emotional or historical connection, and the actual design, the look of the car, needs to be accurate. And within this category, there are like 3 subcategories. Firstly, most importantly, you need the colors to match. Like if you're gonna run a Tony Stewart Home Depot throwback, the car needs to be orange. Secondly, can you get the same sponsor, or can you get your current sponsor to maybe modify their logo to somewhat match the original? That's worth some bonus points. And then there's the number on the door, on the roof. Can you change the font to match the original? That's what made Chris Buescher's throwback to Matt Kenseth last year so significant to me. Not the yellow and black so much as the return of the original Kenseth Reiser Roush 17 font. Seeing that on track in the modern day was beautiful, was awesome. That made that paint scheme. So within the 2 bigger categories, there are some subcategories. That's what defines a 5-star fantastic throwback in my eyes. Sorry, this is getting way too detailed, way too technical. Let's just get back to looking at some schemes. Eric Almirola is throwing it back to Dale Earnhardt Jr. This is the scheme that Jr. won at Daytona in 2001, the first Cup race at Daytona after the tragic death of Dale Earnhardt Sr. Very iconic paint scheme. Not a perfect recreation, but you look at this scheme and you immediately know what it is. You immediately recognize it. I'm gonna give it 4 stars. Eric Almirola, many of his first Cup Series starts were with DEI back in the day. So he and the Earnhardt family, they go way back. This is pretty cool. Chase Briscoe's throwback is sneaky good. It's kind of random. I mean, it's not random. It's a throwback to Tony Stewart, who's co-owner of Stewart-Haas Racing. Chase Briscoe looked up to Tony Stewart when he was younger. That part's not random, but this isn't a NASCAR scheme they're throwing it back to. This is an old USAC scheme that Tony Stewart ran, that he won the Turkey Night Grand Prix in back in the year 2000. Very accurate recreation. Again, it's tough to take these dirt cars and convert those schemes into a boxier, more full-looking Cup Series car, but they did a pretty great job. I like the flames on the white. I like this one a lot. This one snuck up on me. I'm gonna give it 5 stars. I really like it. Ryan Preece throwing it back to his father, Jeff Preece, who raced this scheme on a late model back in the late 90s. I love the sentimental family connection here, but this isn't a scheme that I think your average fan is going to sit in the grandstands on Sunday and immediately be able to pick out or recognize. I think it looks really good, really clean. I love the navy blue 41 on that white door. That looks nice, but I don't think I can give it 5 stars. I feel like I'm giving everyone 4 and 5 stars. This one's a 4-star. In my opinion, man, I'm gonna have to start grading more harshly. I don't think I've given anything lower than 4 stars yet. Okay, here we go, just in time. The last Stewart-Haas scheme, Kevin Harvick. Now, Kevin Harvick arguably has already won throwbacks for the year 2023. At North Wilkesboro in a couple weeks, he's throwing it back to the old red and white number 29. He's even bringing back the original 29 font. That's awesome. But for Darlington, Kevin Harvick's final official throwback weekend, they kind of dropped the ball. Remember subcategory number 1? The colors have to match, and in this case they don't. I do think it's cool that they're throwing it back to an unused Kevin Harvick scheme, the scheme he was supposed to make his Cup Series debut in, the blue and yellow AOL colors. But you look at this car and nothing about it is recognizable. Orange, green, this looks like the Kids' Choice Awards. Doesn't look anything like the old AOL race car, so it gets a 1 star. I do like the old school Sunny D logo, but no, that's not enough. Let's talk about Trackhouse. Last year, in many's eyes, they won Throwback Weekend with the Coca-Cola schemes. What do they have in store for us this year? Ross Chastain throwing it back to Dale Jarrett. They got UPS back on the hood. They have not been in the sport in almost 10 years. I think 2013, 2014 maybe were the last years of UPS. I can remember a brown and yellow Carl Edwards scheme. I think 2013. Was that their last year as a primary sponsor? It's been a while. Point is, it's been a while since UPS, the brown, has been on the hood of a NASCAR Cup Series car. And in this case, through Worldwide Express, Trackhouse was able to make it happen. That's awesome. They get points for that. I can't tell if it's just this render. Maybe the real car will look differently, but the color on the side is more red than brown. Am I crazy? This is giving me like Washington Commanders. It looks more Dr. Pepper than UPS. So I'm gonna give this a 5-star review for now, but if it rolls out onto the track and still looks kind of red, I think I'll bump that down to 4 stars. I mean, the red and yellow looks really, really cool, but it doesn't scream UPS to me, so I guess we'll have to wait and see on this one. Daniel Suarez has thrown it back to Ricky Rudd. Iron Man, Quaker State back on board. Got their old logo in all of its former glory. A simple scheme, but this is a good looking scheme. Ricky Rudd won a race in this paint scheme, Watkins Glen, back in 1988. So glad the sponsor, of course, had a say, was very involved, but still played along. I don't think Trackhouse's schemes this year were quite as flashy as the 2 Coca-Cola schemes last year were, but they still were both pretty good. I think this one gets a 5-star as well. It's very accurate. And there are a lot of Ricky Rudd fans out there that I'm sure will appreciate this one. I thought we were done with the Trackhouse schemes. No, I'm just kidding. JTG Doherty, awkward, is running the exact same throwback Ross Chastain is. There are some things I like about this one more than the Trackhouse scheme, though. I mean, it is hard to follow up Trackhouse when they actually got the UPS on the hood. Country Crock, Kroger, not quite the same thing, but the brown and the yellow on the side look more true to the original. Again, these are all just renderings. I have to wait and see the real cars on track to make final judgments, but yeah, I'll give JTG some points over Trackhouse for that at least. I gave the Chastain car 5 stars. I'll give this one 4. I'll bump them down 1 because they don't have the UPS logo. Sorry. Legacy Motor Club throwing it back to some 7-time champions. First, Noah Gragson, Jimmy Johnson, 2014 Coke 600 win. This was Jimmy Johnson's final Coca-Cola 600 win. And 2014, this may be the newest throwback scheme of the season. I mean, like the most recent, I should say. I guess we'll keep going. I'll have to keep tabs on that. But 2014, less than a decade ago. I like the little skits, the way they've promoted this with Noah Gragson somehow squeezing into Jimmy Johnson's old Lowe's fire suit. So I love how they're playing along with this whole deal. The scheme itself, you know how some of these, you immediately recognize them? Like that Eric Almirola, Dale Jr. throwback. You don't have to love it, but you immediately recognize that as, oh yeah, that's Dale Jr., 2001. This one I look at and, yeah, okay, I remember this Jimmy car, the red, white, the blue, the yellow door number. That's very Hendrick, very Jimmy Johnson, but it takes me a moment. At first glance, I don't immediately see Jimmy. I see just a new scheme. So I'll give this one, you guessed it, another 4 stars. It's good, but it's not elite. Eric Jones throwing it back to Richard Petty. I mean, as long as the 43 cars in NASCAR, chances are they're throwing it back to King Richard. I don't blame them. This is a really simple design, but hey, the Petty blue always looks good. This is a throwback, I believe, to 1968. I'm gonna give it 4 stars, kind of like Kevin Harvick. They saved their best throwback for North Wilkesboro. I think Eric Jones is driving a 1992 Petty's final year throwback in that race, and I don't know, the inclusion of the Dayglow orange or red, whatever you want to call it, those colors really tie that scheme together better than this one. This one's just plain Petty blue. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's, you know, at this point we've seen it before. 4 stars. A very eclectic mix from Hendrick Motorsports. Let's begin with this scheme that was revealed today, actually. Kyle Larson is throwing it back to Tony Stewart, actually. I know, the colors, the scheme, you may be asking yourself, really, what, huh? Okay, but Tony Stewart won an Xfinity race in this scheme back in 2009. It was car number 80, so Larson throwing it back to that is very interesting. I know Kyle Larson, Tony Stewart both have a ton of respect for each other, but I can't help but view this almost as Hendrick rubbing Tony Stewart's nose into the fact that, hey, we got Kyle Larson. We know you wanted Larson, but Ford told you no. We got Larson. I don't know. Take that. I'm sure that wasn't their intention, but it's a cool scheme. Kind of a surprise, I'll be honest. 5 stars from me. Moving on to Chase Elliott. He's joining the list of drivers, throwing it back to their famous fathers. Check out the red Everham era number 9, Bill Elliott. Very, very simple scheme, simple design, but again, going back to what's recognizable. You see this on track and immediately, bam, that's Bill Elliott. Or for a moment I thought Casey Kane. Love that they changed the number 9 font. I mean, again, this is arguably the most simple car in the field, but it stands out. So 5 stars, beautifully done. Speaking of Casey Kane, we have seen this number 9 font recently. He threw back to himself a couple years ago, but it was the 95. Not quite the same thing. I love that in this case it's the 9, just the 9 as it was supposed to be. William Byron in the 24 is throwing it back to Jeff Gordon. Surprise, surprise. But this is an interesting and I think a very timely choice. This was a special scheme Jeff Gordon ran to commemorate the 50th anniversary of NASCAR back in 1998. Now we're in year 75, the 75th anniversary. Kind of fun to bring this commemorative paint scheme back. So yeah, honestly, good thinking. I like this one too. 5 stars. Man, I'm in a very generous mood today. I'm just handing out 4 and 5 stars left and right. Everyone's passing with flying colors. The 48, actually gonna be driven by Josh Berry this weekend, but it's throwing it back to Alex Bowman's spotter, who raced in the Xfinity Series back in the 2000s, 2007, this car. And I mean, the colors match perfectly. The red, the gold, the white, very well done, a very solid recreation, and a cool gesture to highlight the team's spotter. I mean, many of us have heard of Kevin Hamlin, but a lot of spotters are kind of the unsung heroes. They don't get a ton of screen time, a ton of recognition, so this is a really cool gesture. I mean, another 5 stars. Again, a very eclectic, a very odd mix of schemes out of Hendrick, maybe besides the Bill Elliott one. That one is kind of on the nose, kind of obvious, but besides the Chase Bill Elliott one, the other 3 kind of miscellaneous, kind of random, but I like it. No Dale Jr. throwbacks, no Jimmy Johnson throwbacks, no Rainbow or Flame Jeff Gordon throwbacks. I mean, pretty cool. We're getting pretty close to the end of Cup Series throwback schemes, at least ones that have been released so far. There's still a few days to go. Brad Keselowski's throwing it back to a classic Castrol race car look. This one's good. I actually think this paint scheme looks really sharp. If they want to make this the everyday Castrol scheme, I would not complain. But this paint scheme, to my knowledge, doesn't really have NASCAR roots. It's kind of just the sponsor playing up themselves, which is fine. I get it. They pay the big bucks. They pay the bills. But this scheme, I'll go middle of the road. I'm going to go 3 stars for this one. I think we just have the Toyotas now. Let's start with 2311. Tyler Reddick throwing it back to Kurt Busch. This is a pretty sweet looking scheme and a really awesome gesture. I gotta give this one 5 stars. This throws back to 2003, which was also the year of a very iconic Darlington finish that Kurt Busch was very much a part of. And in the present day, Kurt Busch is a huge part of 2311 racing. Even though he's no longer behind the wheel, he's not in the driver's seat, he's still very much a team player. This is an awesome gesture by the team to honor Kurt Busch, to honor his legacy. So 5 stars for me. I think this looks pretty cool, and I love the meaning behind it. I believe all that's left are Joe Gibbs Racing cars. I saw this one on Darlington's website. I didn't really see it anywhere else, and I think I understand why. Joe Gibbs Racing knows they're gonna get ratioed if they publicize this. It's a good looking throwback. It's a throwback to FedEx, celebrating 50 years, something like that. But he did this exact throwback a few years ago. We've seen this exact throwback scheme from this exact driver and sponsor in this exact race recently. 2 stars. Here we go. It's about damn time DeWalt got involved in the throwback weekend festivities and threw it back to their most iconic driver, Matt Kenseth. Matt Kenseth's 2003 championship season paint scheme. 5 stars for me, but y'all already knew that. They got the colors exactly right. The sponsor, it's the same primary sponsor. That's worth bonus points. There are a couple things about the design that I don't love, like the door number so far forward. There's a lot of blank space. The DeWalt logo on the door there is a little small. There are things I don't love about it, but I'm a big Matt Kenseth fan. It's about time that his championship season was honored on Throwback Weekend. It's fitting because he made it into the Hall of Fame this year. So I appreciate DeWalt, Christopher Bell, and Joe Gibbs Racing doing this one. 5 stars. And I think our final Cup throwback to look at is Ty Gibbs, who's throwing it back to Bobby Labonte. More specifically, Ty Gibbs is throwing it back to his grandfather, Joe Gibbs. So another family connection. Bobby Labonte ran this special scheme when Joe Gibbs was voted into the NFL Hall of Fame. Now Ty Gibbs is going to run a very similar looking design. So pretty cool. Once again, a family connection there. It's not the most iconic scheme. I'm torn. I'm gonna go 4 stars, I think, for this one. I've been giving out way too many 5 stars. I gotta come back down to earth. I'm gonna give this one a 4 stars. Still pretty good though. I like it. Those are all the Cup Series throwbacks that have been revealed so far. I will rank my top 3 here in just a few moments, but first I want to spotlight some of my favorite Xfinity and truck schemes. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I want to highlight some of the best, in my opinion at least. Stewart Haas Racing set the bar extremely high. Fantastic Jason Leffler throwback here that Cole Custer is running. I know it means a lot to him. Great looking paint scheme. And Riley Herbst with Monster Energy paying tribute to Ken Block. This paint scheme, beautiful, ferocious. Another Kurt Busch throwback right here. Sharpie colors that Sam Mayer is throwing it back to. You might have seen this on the Dale Jr. download. It was cool that they revealed this in front of Hutch Strickland, but the 8 of Josh Berry is running a Hutch Strickland throwback. That's cool. A couple of my favorites from Alpha Prime. It's a shame that someone not named Kevin Harvick is running a better Kevin Harvick throwback than Kevin Harvick in Kevin Harvick's final throwback weekend. I think that made sense. That was a bit of a tongue twister. Quicksilver colors right here. It's a little weird seeing them on a boxy Xfinity car, but I love the attention to detail. The logos, the sponsors really tried to play with it to look accurate. That's cool. And Jeffrey Earnhardt sporting the Wheaties colors, throwing it back to Dale Earnhardt. We need more race car drivers in the modern day on cereal boxes. Let's make it happen. Herbie the Love Bug, specifically Herbie Fully Loaded, but I love all the Herbie content in the world. This is cool to see. Jeremy Clements, my boy, with an awesome Jeff Bodine throwback as well. Love the sponsor getting involved, changing their logo, changing the colors, the designs, the number font to match. Excellent work. And one more I want to mention, this Tim Richmond scheme that Brett Moffitt is paying tribute to. I really appreciate the sponsor, at least on the hood, modifying their logo to try and match the old Folgers design and the gold 25 on the door. Iconic. Couple of truck schemes. We've already talked about this one, I believe, but Carson Hocevar, who also has that Trackhouse Worldwide Express connection, is also doing a UPS Dale Jarrett throwback. This one's got flames on it. Race the Truck. I love that it says, "We love this truck" on the truck bed. A fun kind of reference there for longtime fans. And Lawless Allen throwing it back to Adam Petty. It is very difficult to miss these colors every time you see them. We've seen this throwback done before. I think Bubba Wallace did it a few years ago when he was driving the 43, but very cool to see it in truck form, no doubt. There are others, of course, but those are just some of my favorites. I'm running out of time here. I want to give you all my 3 favorite Cup Series throwbacks for this year. And then I want you in the comments below to give me your 3 favorite. And if you want, if you're feeling a little more negative, a little more pessimistic, you just need to vent, let me know your 3 least favorite as well. I'm just going to stick with my favorite, and to be fair, I'm going to subtract the Matt Kenseth, Christopher Bell, that throwback scheme from the equation because, you know, I'm a biased Kenseth fan. That probably is my favorite. It wasn't perfectly executed, but I actually think it was one of the better executed throwbacks in the bunch this season. To me, this season's batch of throwbacks, at least so far, there aren't many stinkers. Like, there's the Harvick one that's just kind of misses the mark. There's some, like the Logano one, that's really good, but we've seen it before very recently. There really aren't many that are bad. There just also aren't that many that really knocked me out of my chair this year. There's some really good ones. The Hendrick bunch, some of those were very surprising, eclectic, but not many of the throwbacks this year have really knocked me out of my seat. The only one that has was the Kevin Harvick North Wilkesboro throwback when he brings the 29 back, but that's not this weekend. So anyway, my top 3. Number 3, Harrison Burton throwing it back to Jeff Burton. Once again, I love the father-son connection. I know he's done this many times before, but I love that this scheme won at Darlington. It swept one year. Like, that's awesome. Bringing that scheme back at Darlington, I think, is a very fitting tribute. So I like this one. Number 3. Number 2, the Kyle Larson, Tony Stewart connection. Again, kind of random, kind of out of left field, but I like it. And again, I do think that Tony Stewart, Kyle Larson, like there's something a little devious about this tribute that I kind of like. I don't know. It's just funny to me. But yeah, I'm gonna put this one at number 2. At number 1, and maybe this is a cop-out, it's not the most impressive design by any means. It's not even really the most creative. It's just the most recognizable, at least for me, someone who grew up watching NASCAR in the 2000s. Bill Elliott, throwback being run by his son, Chase Elliott. You see this one out of the corner of your eye, I take my glasses off, everything's blurry, I spot this car and I immediately recognize it. I really can't say that about many of the other throwbacks on this list this year. A lot of points for that one. Of course, the Bill and Chase connection. Everyone's gonna eat that up, no doubt. I think this one gets number 1. It's not a runaway by any means. Again, there's no clear, just wow, winner this season, in my opinion. A lot of very interesting designs, some surprises, but those are my top 3. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know. I appreciate y'all watching this episode. Again, one of my favorite episodes of the year, every year. That's gonna do it. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. If you're new and you love NASCAR, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And thank you to my Patreon supporters for your very generous support. I will see you again soon. Thank you so much for watching, y'all. Take it easy.